the rest of the evening contemplating everything that had happened on that field. What was that thing? It had to be a person. Maybe they were stuck. If they were, they would be calling for help, surely. I went to bed that night, feeling a little odd. Not afraid, just uneasy. The next day, my mom went out again and she gave me the option to stay at home and go with her. Was I gonna go with her? No, I was not. I stayed at home and went back into the fields with a feeling of dread in my stomach. I didn't know why. This person seemed lonely. I needed to ask them what they were doing. I plucked up some courage and began walking. I did not blink. I just kept my eyes on that figure the entire time I walked. They were definitely looking at me, without a doubt. I tried waving at them, but in turn, I received no gesture back. As I kept wandering closer, I noticed the clothes of the figure was wearing. The majority of the figure's clothes was red. The figure wore a hat with a white feather on top. Even his shoes were red. I could make out the face now. He had a bulbous nose. The bottom half of his face was painted blue, and it appeared his lips were painted white. This person was a clown. What would a clown be doing out in the middle of the field, staring at my house? Hello? I called. No response. I stood at fair distance from the clown. The person was certainly a man. I kept calling the clown. No response still. What are you doing here? I asked. Suddenly, the clown blinked and lifted his head a little. I stood back. Can you hear me? I asked. You should turn back. The clown finally responded. What's your name? I kept questioning him. Does it matter what my name is? I am here because I want to be here. I live here, child. The clown responded. Well, I live here, actually, I said, reassuring her. I live here. You disturbed me, and those who disturb me help me paint, he said violently. I was very confused at this last part. Help him paint what? What do you want? I'm gonna tell my mom about this, I said with a childish authority. Of course I was right. I was a child. I was the boss in this conversation. Or so I thought. Your mother will refuse to believe you, boy. She is merely a cold-hearted woman. She has seen me. Why don't you think she doesn't want you down here? She knows of me. Oh, I warned her. I really did. I was listening intently. My mom had been here? That's why she was telling me to stay away? No, it can't be. This is just my dad being dressed up, I thought. I thought it was some cruel joke to help me keep away from this field. Stop playing around, Dad, I shouted. Oh, you think your little daddy will come and save you? No, he will not. You see, your parents, they leave you alone a lot, don't they? You know what I mean. You're always left alone in that house. Why, oh, why is that? I told them. I warned them. They are scared. They're scared of me. You see, boy, I have been waiting for you for a little while now. When they're out, I'm about. How do you know they've been leaving me alone? Who are you? I shouted. Your worst nightmare. I belted. I turned around and sprinted as fast as I could. I ran and ran for ages, it seemed. I looked behind me. He had gone. I charged to the house, and they weren't home. The sky was so dark. It was 7 p.m. Mom and Dad should be home soon, I thought. I burst into tears, and went to the phone. The phone was smashed to pieces. Someone had been into the house. Oh no, it can't be. I had to get out of that house. I was in a flood of tears, and my burning eyes would keep blurring up. I rubbed them furiously as I repeatedly tried to open the front door. It was not having it. I kept tugging at the door, but nothing. That's when I stopped for a few seconds. If this thing wants my parents out of the house for whatever reason, is it something to do with their room? I tried to shake away the thought, but it kept clouding my mind. They allowed me into their room the last house. Why not this one? I had to find out what was going on. I heard noises coming from the kitchen. Wiping the tears away, I charged upstairs and burst into my mom's room without even thinking a thing. Once the door had smashed into the next wall, I stood there in silence. I don't even want to write this, but hanging from the ceiling was my dad. Three chains emerged from the ceiling, each one dug into his back, blood still dripping from his lifeless body. I vomited. I kept throwing up every time I looked at the thing. The walls were covered in writing. After darting my eyes away from the body several times, I noticed what the writing said the whole time. Sacrifice. Suddenly, the doorway filled with red. It was him, the clown. I screamed as he walked closer and closer towards me. He held a paintbrush in his left hand and a paint pot at the right. "I told you," he said. He lunged towards me. The paint pot came towards my head. I screamed and covered my eyes, and then I woke up. This seems like a stupid plot twist, doesn't it? Well, it's not. Please, keep reading. You have to find out the truth. It was a dream. And it was early morning. I had dreamt the entire ordeal. Not moving into the house, obviously, but the clown, and the room, and everything to do with that horrid field. I slowly wandered downstairs, gripping my head. It really hurt bad. I must have been thrashing around in the night because of that nightmare and hit my head. I was burping up, sick, because of what I witnessed in my dream. It made me feel sick to my stomach. Maybe I was coming down with an illness. Not again. I called for my parents. No answer. They must be outside. I went to the back door, opened it, hobbled outside. I called again. Still no answer. I wandered to the edge of the garden to see if they were in the fields, and I saw something in the distance. I thought it was them. I called, and the figure looked at me and waved. I was happy knowing that my parents were safe and sound and that I was going to be all right. The turbines weren't spinning that morning. I spent the rest of the day inside the house watching TV. I didn't bother looking out of the window to see if they were there. I was too involved with watching cartoons to even remember to check. But by 4 o'clock, they had still not returned to the house. I went outside to go look for them, and that's when I stopped, dead in the middle of the garden. One of the turbines were red. As I looked up at it, I screamed in horror. At the end of the two arms of the turbine, there were bodies spinning round and round. The figure in the distance began to wave at me again. Oh no, it couldn't be. That was no dream. I was concussed. The paint pot they gave me when the injury was on my head. Then, when I noticed the writing on the fence, the writing that wasn't there earlier, the very words that have made me suffer for countless years. Thank you for helping me paint. End.